Hey everybody, Andrew Hogue here, your security, privacy, and forensics expert. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Pushwoosh, a popular mobile app SDK that said they were based in the United States, but in fact they were based in Russia. They claim to have information on over 2.3 billion devices, and a lot of that information is not only sensitive, but was showing up in applications from the CDC, the US Army, and thousands of popular mobile apps. I'll tell you a little bit more about Pushwoosh, show you what some of the network data flows look like, and then help you detect Pushwoosh inside your organization, whether it's in the apps you use or the apps you build. So let's dive right in. As always, you can go out to my personal website, don't panic. Just go to andrewhogue.com, click on blog, and then you'll see a list of articles you can choose from. I link out to the Reuters article, and I really encourage you to take a couple of minutes and read the article. It's a fascinating read, kind of reads like a spy novel. There's fake addresses, fake LinkedIn profiles, tax filings in Siberia, Russia, and more. What's really interesting is the founder of the company acknowledges these things and says these are simply different marketing tactics they were using to try to succeed in the United States. They weren't intending to hide that they were a Russian company, but in fact, all of the other evidence indicates otherwise. And in an app and software economy like this, trust is a fundamental part of the software supply chain. You have to trust that the software that you use is secure and being used for the purposes described, and the information is being protected and not overly shared. And so when it appears you're not honest about being a Russian company while operating inside the United States, that trust is fundamentally broken. All right, let's take a quick look at the sensitive data flows that we saw when we were exercising some of these mobile apps. These were baseline assessments, so we would attempt to log in with automation, but we probably wouldn't succeed. And so you'll just get an initial glimpse of what it looks like when the SDK initially runs and attempts to register a new user. I broke these down by Android and iOS data flows. Each one of them has a slightly different API endpoint that they call. And then you can see in this particular URL encoded data scheme that there's lots of information in here. It's a bit hard to parse. So I pulled out a few items that I thought were interesting. One of them is device name. That seems super innocuous, but a lot of times the device name will actually include your personal name. And so if you can ingest the data from 2.3 billion devices and have the name of the user on many of them, that's an incredibly powerful targeting database. There's also information about the specific OS and architectures in use, which, as you could imagine, if this was being used for nefarious reasons, would be key to understanding if there's exploitable issues on that particular device or operating system. I also always find that the language and locale stands out for me. Given that you're operating at global scale on billions of devices, understanding a particular device location and their language makes it really easy to spot people who are traveling into different countries. And that can certainly put US persons at risk if they're traveling overseas in certain countries. And the last thing that I noticed is that there's just different device configuration identifiers, such as screen resolution. These are really great data points to capture if you want to fingerprint a device in a user and track them across a broader set of data flows. We saw similar data with iOS. Again, there's a custom API endpoint that perhaps changes by region, by customer, not really sure. We see things like tracking the language, unique user ID that will pass into each of the data flows, hardware IDs, and then other data flows that are checking to see whether or not the device is jailbroken, tracking the ID for advertisers, and also tracking things like the OS version and hardware that you're running on. The ID for advertisers is interesting because rarely do people reset that identifier. So perhaps if you're coordinating with a much larger data set, you could track people across many different apps and many different data flows by connecting in with the IDFA. So that's pretty interesting stuff, but how can you detect the use of Pushwoosh within your organization or the apps that you build? One of the key things is to use binary analysis. I have another segment about this that I'll link to if you'd like to get more information. But basically, binary analysis will look at the mobile app binary and we'll be able to identify not only direct dependencies that are included in the mobile app, but indirect or transitive dependencies. So SDKs that include other SDKs. This is really important because we see that happen very, very often. And if you're just doing source code analysis, if you even have access to source code, you will most likely miss the transitive dependencies that are so key to the security and privacy posture of the application. And the other key point is you're not going to have the source code for the apps that you use. So you have to have some sort of technique that allows you to inspect the binary and determine whether or not there are security or privacy issues in the software supply chain. So I'm going to show you how to detect apps that use Pushwoosh using the NowSecure platform. In full disclosure, I'm a co-founder at NowSecure. We provide free trials, so if you are not a current customer, you can go to the bottom of the article and you'll see a link to our free trial. Just sign up and then you can log in and test a particular mobile app that you're interested in. Now I've put the instructions and screenshots out on the blog for people who would like to follow along there, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this live. So I've logged into the NowSecure portal and I've filtered things down to my open source group, and I'm going to go ahead and click Add Application. So you can come out and choose whatever you want. In this particular case, I'm going to search for Home Assistant. Home Assistant is an open source mobile app for home automation that's absolutely amazing. And you can see here that I've already added the application. So I'm just going to take you through the flow briefly of what it would look like to add a different app. So you'd click on Add App, click Add App and Run Assessment, and you can select your group there again. And then that'll bring you up to a screen where you can choose either a baseline assessment, which is all that we'll need to do here, or you can do advanced assessments that allow you to get into authenticated scans, action strings, and into full scripting. So I'm going to go ahead and choose baseline assessment, click Run Assessment, which will then queue that up into our system. And then you can click View the Security Report, and you'll see that it's queued up pending static and dynamic analysis. Now I'm going to go ahead and take you back to the Home Assistant application and show you what that looks like after the results are in. So you can go to the security report and click on the software bill of materials finding, and you'll see here that there's a list of software bill of materials. In this particular application, there's 42 different results, and you can flip through them and see all the different components. Now I'm way too lazy to do that. I don't want to look through all these things, so like my other tutorials, I'm going to show you how you can do this command line. One of the things that you'll need is the assessment ref. And so you can look up top here and see under the URL, there's an assessment ref sitting up here. You can also come into the debug screen, click on assessment info, and you'll see the information there as well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pop out to the command line, and you'll need to have a NowSecure token, which you can get from the web UI. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to export the API token, and you're going to paste in your token here. Now I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that now. Just going to go ahead and remove that. The next thing that you're going to do is type in a curl command. So this is linked out on my blog, and you can see that we're going to curl. We're going to pass along our authorization header. I'm going to go ahead and remove this silent here for just a minute. Pass through the API token, hit the REST API for this particular assessment. That's going to stream the results back, and they're going to come by very, very quickly. So I went and piped it through less. You'll see information about the application itself, the different libraries that are involved, and I'm just going to go ahead and search for Pushwoosh. So you can see here we have different components inside the library where they're using Pushwoosh, and when possible, we'll pull out licensing information as well. One of the other things that's interesting is we actually track a services tab. This is part of the CycloneDX format, and it's really awesome because this allows you to look at different data flows within the application. So you can now use a software bill of material not only to look at third-party SDKs, but to also look at data flows, especially out to third-party vendors inside the application. And you can see here that Pushwoosh is one of the services that's named. So if you're lazy like me and you don't want to actually look through the CycloneDX SBOM, you can actually just use grep. So we'll go ahead and put the silent flag back in, and then we're going to go pipe this result through grep, and we're going to use the -i for case insensitive, and we're just going to look for Pushwoosh. So when you do that, you'll see, yep, we have a positive hit here, and we know that we have an application that uses Pushwoosh. Now this doesn't really scale very well if you have thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of apps in your enterprise. So we actually integrate in with mobile device management software so we can automatically pull out all the mobile apps, or we can simply accept a list of mobile apps in an Excel or CSV format and then bulk look those up in the system. I've also written a small command line utility. So if you're a now secure customer and you have multiple apps or groups in your account, you can use this command line utility to search for any SDK that you want across those applications. I'll probably clean up the code a little bit and open source it here in the next couple of days if folks are interested, or just send me a quick note and I'd be happy to share it with you. Now, if you're an app developer and you actually have source code, you don't have to go out to the public stores and do this. You can simply upload the application directly from your workstation or from your CI/CD process. What I'll take you through here, and I've shown in other videos, and I'll link to them so you can just go watch those videos, is just a high level of how you do this. So just like before, you're going to need your API token. You'll go ahead and export that at the command line. And then you'll use curl to go ahead and just post your binary along with the group ID out to Now Secure Platform. That will then return an assessment reference, which we can use in conjunction with our CycloneDX REST API to pull the data back. So as you saw earlier, again, you'll just do another curl command, use your assessment reference, and then tack on CycloneDX. And you'll get the same results back that I showed you earlier. I also showed you the command to use grep if you want to automatically search for those instances. So that's really it. This builds on some of the other segments I've done in the past. So for people that have seen those, there's some redundancy here, but I think it's really helpful to be able to quickly respond to new security and privacy issues that pop up in the news. And the great news is, if you do automated mobile app security testing, you'll actually detect a lot of these issues during the assessment process while you're developing the app. And these assessments don't just have to be for security. We have more and more enterprise customers that are using these to detect privacy issues. And that may be privacy issues because you have kids that use your service, and so you have to worry about CAPA, or certainly you're being covered by GDPR and CCPA like everybody else, or when the news hits that there's a Russian SDK posing as a US company, you can quickly identify that risk in the apps that you build and the apps you use. As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.